A few final thank yous before we get to the fun. I'd like to thank our co-chairs for this year's Geekend, Yvonne Giffrault and Alicia Howell. Thank you for all your hard work. I'd also like to thank the rest of the committee, are there any committee members that are still here? Miriam and Ryan, Malcolm. Come back here. Coco's here. Thanks to all the folks who put in a lot of hard work to make this happen. We really appreciate you, and you did a great job. Also like to thank our major sponsors, Guildhall, Clay, thank you so much. Creative Coast, thank you. And ATDC, thank you guys so much for coming. Also, I would like to thank all of these sponsors, but there's just a lot of them. So if you're a sponsor, can you just like wave your hand, like, okay. Let's see, Code Base, Layer Frame, Paragon, City of Savannah, Chromatic Dragon, 8-Bit Donuts, come get the donuts later this month. Guildhall, Jolly Goblin. Steam Camp, yes. Who did I miss? ProjectMQ. All right. If you had a great time, next week there are 2 events. There's a lot of events. You should check out the Creative Coast website for the calendar. But Tech SAV is doing a Tech Tuesday on Tuesday night. That's fun if you're a geek. And also every Wednesday at 9 a.m. at Bolster Labs is 1 Million Cups, another great entry point into the ecosystem. So please stay involved. Speaking of staying involved, we are going to start planning Geekend 2019 because we're nuts. If you would like to be part of the process, please visit our website and go to this link and fill out the form. Please don't do that quite yet. I'm not sure, is it ready yet? Or? Oh, it's fine. So, it's fine. You're also welcome to like go old school and just, you know, come up to us and talk to us and stuff. But certainly sign up here if you'd like to be involved with the planning process for 2019. So, without further ado, any more housekeeping, any more thank yous? Are we good? We ready to call it a year? Okay, so what you've all been waiting for is, let me go back a few slides. This is the Indie Game Awards. And I'd like to bring Clegg up, I think, to maybe, okay, sure. Bring Clegg up to introduce and kick things off.
All right, thanks, guys. So, for those of you who were here for the previous panel, you know that there's a lot of interest in Savannah being sort of a mecca for game design and gaming. If you don't know, I'm Clegg, I'm the owner of the Guildhall, Chromatic Dragon, Jolly Goblin Games, 8-Bit Donuts. I don't know if you see a theme developing here, but I'm obsessed with gaming. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since I was 6 when my babysitter realized it was a really easy way to, you know, completely capture my imagination and prevent me from running all over the house. So I know there are a lot of gamers, and also when I was in Silicon Valley, you know, doing startups in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were all gamers. So there's a really tight connection between gaming and tech dev, and between sort of gaming and innovation. A lot of new innovation happens in where? Porn and gaming, right? And in fact, one of my startups, you know, we did stuff with pushing media that no one had ever seen in the telephony industry because we hired a bunch of game technologists who all were working at the cutting edge of pushing media using native host processing, which in 1999, 2000 was pretty freaking cool. So, anyway, what does that have to do with the Indie Game Awards? Well, these people, the people who are writing these games, people like Malcolm, who are building awesome companies around helping people find independent games. And SCAD, raise your hands, those of you, Sue-Ann and Cyril and the rest of you guys, the people who are teaching the next generation of gamers, they're all part of a huge story that I think is going to be really important to Savannah. And that is that you don't have to be a AAA employee AAA producer to make a great game anymore. And maybe you never did, but at least now there are ways for people to find out about the games. We're really excited to be a part of that. And so, in that spirit, I'd like to go ahead and introduce you guys to Malcolm Howard, the co-founder and CEO of ProjectMQ, whose sole mission is to help connect gamers with independent games that are perfect for them. Malcolm, shake my hand, buddy. All right.
Thanks everyone for showing up. It's a pleasure to be able to work with such awesome games. I want to thank everyone that applied for the Indie Game Arcade. We had a ton of awesome applications, but we kind of reduced that number down to 10, and we were able to showcase those over the last couple of days. And we're now going to invite one of our sponsors. Where's Nick Beatty from Avant Games will join me up here. And unfortunately, Thomas Brush from Atlas Games couldn't make it. We have an extra mic. We need just one more mic. Person named Mike. So as you're all probably aware, Avant Games was kind enough to sponsor a Nintendo Switch as a raffle prize. Everyone that's here in the audience now will have a chance to win this, along with a number of other prizes. Actually, Atlas Games has donated 15 Steam keys for Pinstripe, and I don't know what happened to them, but I have 2 Steam links here in the room that ProjectMQ has donated. We're going to go ahead and sit down and have a little chat before we tell you who was in the arcade and announce who was the 2 picks for People's Choice. Can we play the trailers really quickly for the sponsors? Yeah, projects. Yeah, any orders. share a little bit about this game. Yeah, follow online, Twitter and Facebook, subscribe. So I want to take a moment to share a little bit about this game for Thomas since he's not here. I attended along with several other members here from the gaming community, a talk at USC Buford, and Thomas shared that he built this game all by himself. He did all the programming, he did all the artwork, he did all the sound effects. Actually, that was Brian Canada from USC Games, the game department put that talk on. And it was really quite amazing because he said that he didn't have a traditional game development background. He was in marketing and he just loved telling stories. And so he spent an hour in the morning before work, after work, and then a long lunch just dedicated to building this world. And he just had a story that he wanted to tell, so I thought that was really phenomenal. We're going to go on to the next game that he's actually has a Kickstarter that's launching in 15 days. It's called Once Upon a Coma. Do you want to share something, Nick?
Well, I was just going to say, I really like the art style of the
A round of applause for that one. And from my understanding, this is a spiritual successor. It could actually be a direct sequel to his first game that he released on Newgrounds, which was a website in the 90s. I think it was in the 90s that people could go and make Flash-based games, and he decided to make a sequel, and he's actually working with partnering with another studio, so he's not doing all the work himself on this one, but he's got a Kickstarter campaign that's launching in 15 days. If you go to Atmos Games, follow them on Twitter, you can find out how to support his campaign. And next we have Dragon Souls by Avant Games. Round of applause. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your game, Nick. How did you get the idea for this? How did you get started in games? Or is this what you do for your day job? How does this work?
Well, you know, I think everybody's here already, it's probably already heard it, but I've always wanted to get into games. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I had finished my graduate program, and I was pacing around the house, and my wife told me to sit down and stop doing that. So I needed to put my energy towards something, so I decided it was time for me to start doing it, and chase that dream, just to see if I could make it happen. Dragon Souls kind of became a project within about 6 months after that, and it's just been something we've been kind of plugging away on. Really excited about it. Dragon Souls was born from an idea. So Skyrim, most people here, I think knows of Skyrim, has this glitch in it that if you get this ring, it turns you into a dragon. And the ring can be glitched where you stay the dragon. You can kind of fly around the whole Skyrim world and having fun like that. And that just, I wanted to do more of that, and I could not find a game out there, so that's why we started Dragon Souls. The idea is really just to be able to terrorize the denizens a little bit, but it's really mostly intended to be a PvP game. So dragon versus dragon, go out there, have different abilities for manipulating the other dragons or burning them or attacking them, but you also have to deal with the denizens of the world as well, the wee human. So that's kind of our concept.
Awesome, awesome. What type of challenges do you run into as an independent game developer?
Yeah, Cyril kind of talked on that a minute ago in our last session, and I think the biggest challenge that I have is the skill sets that I don't have, matching up with those and finding people who are willing to participate. Partly because I don't think I get out enough, but partly because you know, there's a lot of different skill sets that are required for a game this size. When I started it, I kind of was thinking it's a little smaller than it is, but it's amazing how complex something gets as soon as you add in multiplayer networking. It gets really complex, and just finding those people, you know, you get to where I'm like, yeah, I need to add a new skill in here. Well, that comes with an animation and a sound and an icon and new UI stuff. There's all these things that are kind of tacked onto that you have to kind of take into consideration in that pipeline. That's probably the thing I've learned the most of is doing more with what we've got, but making those connections is becoming more and more important, and that's kind of where we are right now. But I think you'll see it going into early access pretty soon. We're pretty happy with where the trajectory is taking us right now. The beta feedback that we got kind of led us down a road of getting to an open world, so that's kind of where we are with that.
Well, I don't know if any of you were here last year at Geekend, but we had our first Indie Game Arcade, and Dragon Souls was one of the 2 games that got Best of Show for People's Choice. So we had actually, it was right down the hall, and there was a huge crowd of people. Everyone loved flying around, shooting dragon fire. It was a lot of fun.
We had to break a few things for the open world, so we couldn't do it this year, but we'll be back for sure.
Now, I don't know if, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Steam. It's a game distribution and e-commerce platform where you can basically buy games for PC, but early access is a way for you to go onto Steam and buy games before they're ready for the full release. So if you have Steam, or if you don't have Steam, go to store.steampowered.com. You can download the client and search Avant Games or Dragon Souls, and you can wishlist the game so you get more notifications as soon as it comes out into early access.
I would be remiss not to mention also we have one of our developers that's working on another game that we started, a mobile game called Den Defender, which is in the Dragon Souls universe. We have some phenomenal writing from our writer, Abhinav Naren, Skadgrad as well, but we're keeping that lore and we're building a mobile game around that as well, where you get to try and defend your den from those little pesky humans that want to steal your gold. So that one, we don't really have a release date on that one right now, but we're working on it. So sometime in 2018.
That's really cool. I know we have, if they're not here in the room now, I know that there are a lot of game makers here in the area. If they are interested in being involved in your project, what should they do?
We actually have a feedback form and a get involved form on our website, so just submit something there. We've gotten a few of those through that means, and there's a process to go through that we kind of see if we mesh up, and if we do, then you know, we start working together. We'd love to collaborate with other companies as well. Wicked Pixels was a Savannah-based game development company we started with a while ago, and really most of the UI that was done under Wicked Pixels and Haiyun Chen, which is our UI designer. And so we don't mind collaborating. We enjoy the community part of it, and it's definitely necessary.
Thanks again for sponsoring the Indie Game Awards. Because Thomas is not here, I was going to ask him some questions as well, so we'll go ahead and talk about what games were in the arcade, and then we'll announce the 2 that got the People's Choice Awards. So can we play the trailers, please? Indie Arcade. Ultimately, we selected 10 games to showcase based off of quality and originality, and those are the games that you saw. I hope you got a chance to make it to the arcade. Anyone here make it to the arcade? You have a good time, right? Yeah, there was a lot of awesome games there. But ultimately, we looked at which games drew the most foot traffic and which games the gamers were most excited to play. And we're proud to announce that today's 2 People's Choice Award winners will receive 1 hour of consultation from my brother and me from ProjectMQ related to either social media marketing or crowdfunding. We've backed over 200 games on Kickstarter, and our account on social media now earns more than 2 million impressions every month. So we know a little bit about Kickstarter, we know a little bit about social media marketing, and each winner will get a chance to choose one of those awards. So we're proud to announce that today's 2 winners are Bugs and Boo Hags. And can I have a representative of each of those games please join on the stage? Let's bring the chairs on this side. And we'll have you share some about your games and about your creative process and your game development experience. I'll just sit over here. So thank you again for applying. I've watched the long lines of people in line to play your games. They seem to be really excited. They had a lot of fun, so thank you. Tell us about how you came up with the ideas for your games and how you got to Geekend this year.
So Bugs and Boo Hags was originally conceived to be part of a much bigger game about Gullah folklore, or not necessarily a game about Gullah folklore, but a game inspired by Gullah Geechee folklore and the arts, architecture, geography, scenery of Beaufort County and some of the history that has transpired over the years that has had a profound effect on me. I'm a computational scientist, and that's what I do at USC Beaufort, but I'm still an artist at heart, and I appreciate the world around me. And when I was applying, or after I had gotten my position at USCB, I was finishing up my dissertation at Penn State, and I was checking out, on Google things about South Carolina, and I found this map of the United States that had, it's one of those, an early version of an internet meme. You've probably seen some versions of this where it's like, what's everybody's favorite beer in each state, or what football team do people actually follow in each state? Well, this one was a map that said, what's coming to get us? In effect, like, what are we afraid of in each state? And between cannibals in Texas, dreams in Ohio, and zombies in California, there was the Boo Hag in South Carolina. And just seeing those 2 words juxtaposed next to each other, that fed my curiosity. So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, exploring Low Country voodoo and hoodoo, and learning all about the rivalry between Sheriff McTeer, the High Sheriff of the Low Country, and his rivalry, his root work and conjuration rivalry, his witchcraft rivalry with Dr. Buzzard, who, if you're familiar with the novel or the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, the character Minerva was actually the common-law wife of Dr. Buzzard. In any case, one thing led to another, and that inspired me to start working on a game called The Imposter Syndrome, and Bugs and Boo Hags was intended to be a game within a game. The main character would go to a convenience store and see this dusty old arcade cabinet. He would ask the proprietor, what's up with this game? And he's like, oh, Bugs and Boo Hags, this was the biggest hit in the 80s. And so that's what so we decided to create this game, Bugs and Boo Hags, that was a throwback to early single-screen platformers of the 1980s, but it has, it's basically a love letter to that era of gaming, as well as to Gullah Geechee folklore. And so I was really happy with the response that I got to the game. A lot of really great feedback. Jared over there, raise your hand, was really good about finding some glitches that I would never have been able to find myself. So those of us who were hanging out in the arcade Arcade, we all agreed that we would call this glitch the Jared glitch, and so I gave him a special prize just for finding all the glitches in the game. So some of which I decided to leave in there as features and not bugs. But the game is also called Bugs in Boo Hags, so we're kind of covering our ground in there. So if anybody says, hey, there's bugs in the game, we're like, well, duh, it's in the name. Anyway, so that was the inspiration for Bugs in Boo Hags.
I just wanted to make a game about robots. Battery Jam has a bit of a story behind it, and I make that joke about robots. It's not too far off. The game started when me and the people on the team were still students at SCAD, and I was running a student group where we'd bring in industry professionals to talk to us about what it was we were getting into. And every time anybody ever asked about their student projects, things like that, people would tell them, like, don't make Grand Theft Auto, make Space Invaders. Just aim small, scope small, do that stuff. So took that to heart when we started the project. We were looking at a bunch of old retro games, and the short version would be that we looked at Bomberman, and we liked some of the interactions that you had with other players in the multiplayer with Bomberman. And instead of the typical, I shoot you, you shoot me back, it was this indirect interaction where you would leave these bombs, and you're trying to trick your buddy into kind of getting cornered and taken out. So the original build for Battery Jam was focused around this. You'd pick up a bunch of weapons and you would fire them off, and you'd go have to pick up more weapons and all that stuff. So we were lucky enough to get brought back recently for SCAD Plus entrepreneurial program, and we spent the first month and a half ripping the entire game apart and trying to find something a bit more entertaining, because before that, the flow of the game was very much you would pick up an item, you would use it, and then you'd be out, and you'd have to go pick up an item and you would use it, and then you'd go pick up an item and you would use it, and you would go pick up an item and you would use it, and you would go pick up an item. And we immediately were just like, we can't sell this, people are going to hate this. And so we spent a bunch of time refining, what is it that makes this game interesting, what is it that makes this entertaining, and how do we push that? And what we decided on was we had this arena where you can raise and lower tiles. And we were like, okay, that's cool. Well, now what if instead of trying to destroy each other, you're trying to raise, you're trying to like cover territory? So we tried that, and we're like, well, that's cool, but how do we deal with some of these problems that came up during development? One of those problems is like if you get a lead, excuse me, if you get a lead on people, you didn't have a way to like fix that. You didn't have that blue shell moment. And so then one of the guys on the team was like, well, what if you get an explosive and we just blow stuff up? And we're like, okay, well, that sucks. And eventually we realized, like, well, if you can start punching that explosive around the arena, it becomes massively more entertaining. And so it really basically ended up just being a lot of back and forth about how do we make this more entertaining, how do we make this cool. And then on the aesthetic side, we initially started on this like 1990s third wave ska motif with characters that were somewhere between Beautiful Joe and Wipeout, the Sony racing franchise, which if any of you know those franchises, high five to you, because thank you, Clay. A lot of people, when I tell them that, it's like, yeah. So we just kind of put this cotton candy veneer over these cool robots, gave them a bunch of explosives, and tried to make it as entertaining and as amusing as possible.
What is the next step for your games, and what keeps you awake at night when you think about, like, is there a big bug, or what's next?
I guess it can keep you awake. The glitch, and that one glitch that I'm probably never going to identify, and that's why I'm really grateful that some people, Jared not only found the glitch, but he found a way to reproduce it, and that's one of the things that I think is like really hard to do when you find glitches in games. Like, how do you reproduce something that is just seemingly random, like this convergence of, the thumbstick was pointing this direction, I just happen to be at this, X and Y coordinate on the screen, and just, the perfect storm of things just happened to cause that glitch to happen. Well, he managed to recreate the perfect storm repeatedly and use it to his advantage to actually, eventually beat the demo that I had here at the arcade. But as far as next steps are concerned, it's I have the core elements of the game are ready to go, and I could effectively, once the remaining bugs are fixed, I could release this game essentially at any time. But but one of the things I'd like to do is get the community involved in the design of the game. And so we're envisioning a Kickstarter campaign where people who contribute to the game, like if they contribute at a certain level, they can have perhaps a character that's modeled after themselves, or they can have a level that's modeled after their house. Because in each game, there's a house you have to defend against the boot hag by painting all the doors and windows this paint blue color. So that's something we're thinking about doing as far as finishing out the levels of the game and incorporating as many levels as we can to give people their money's worth, when the game is finally released on Steam. Not sure what the price point is going to be. That could be part of our consulting. But that funding is going to help to do what? You're in it here. There you go. But hopefully the funding that we get from Kickstarter will help to, well, kickstart the development of the Imposter Syndrome, because that's a game that I'd love to have look a lot like a AAA style game, which I can't do on my own. Unlike Bugs and Boo Hags, which apart from my sister doing some really, really good chiptune music using Pulse Boy and Family Tracker to really recreate like the NES sound, we can't make this kind of game ourselves, and so we're going to need money to hire additional developers, additional media artists, testers, you name it. So that's what we're hoping to do.
My concerns with the project right now aren't so much on the development or design side. I feel like, for the most part, content there we've got kind of going the way we want it to go. We know the game. Like, when people play it, they enjoy it. We have a good time with players and those playtest sessions. But we do have kind of a harsh reality with the situation we're in that we are involved in this program and we have a great opportunity to continue development for a while. But eventually, we have to figure out how to make that work for ourselves and be a fully functioning, funded company. And that's where I get real terrified, because in particular with my situation, I graduated college and I did not intend to start a company originally, because at that time I was like, I got a lot of bills to pay before I needed to tackle something that daunting. But then this opportunity fell on my lap, and it was one of those things where it's like, I can't say no to this. So there's a reality there that definitely freaks me out. And so we're working really hard to try and get some things going, like we're trying to make some movements to get over to the Switch and some things like that. Because it's a local multiplayer game. Everyone who comes to the playtest sessions is like, hey, you need to get that on the Switch. We're just like, well, we're trying. Like, believe us, we want to too. So the reality of that situation is definitely where I get freaked out.
I was going to ask about the next steps with the companies. Are you going to make another game after Bugs and Boo Hags, or?
We want to make the original, the original vision was to create a game called The Imposter Syndrome, which is semi-autobiographical, in the sense that it's a game about an academic. The academic is not me, but there's elements of me and the character. The game is more about a new professor who ends up in Beaufort County after a freak hurricane diverts him there, and he's exploring the town of Beaufort and finds that he's actually descended from Sheriff McTeer, who was the High Sheriff of the Low Country for years. But he also has a little bit of Gullah, Geechee in him as well. We're envisioning a world hundreds of years in the future where there's a lot more homogenization of the races, and everybody's a little bit alike, for better or for worse, in the game. And so if you could think like if there's going to be supernatural, there's going to be survival horror. Think, maybe if Silent Hill meets Pleasantville, if you're familiar with the movie Pleasantville. It's similar to the world we're thinking of creating, where everybody does kind of think alike, and this character just comes out of nowhere, and as part of his hero's journey, he ends up embracing his destiny, which basically corrects this problem of everybody thinking too much alike and having forgotten the traditions that were so important to Gullah culture and to Beaufort in general. And so, I didn't mention this during my talk yesterday, but that's essentially the plot of the game, The Imposter Syndrome, that we'd like to bring to reality. And the art style is going to be influenced by very heavily influenced by Miri Ferris, who SCAD graduate and is also an instructor at SCAD in their foundations in art and painting, but he's a very prolific artist. And if you've seen his work, you know that there's really nothing quite like it. And we love to bring his paintings to life, and that's heavily going to influence the art and design of the game. So that's what we're hoping, is to create a game that nobody's ever seen before, and that also embraces Gullah Geechee culture and does right by it. And you know, I'm not blind to the fact that, you know, here I am, I'm a white guy making a game about, you know, something that is distinctly not white. But fortunately, I've got the support of some people in the Gullah Geechee community who they're all about what we're trying to do, and that's been very rewarding for us. So, and that there's going to be a lot of community involvement like that as well. I think that's about it as far as what we're planning on doing next. But that's going to be a multi-year project.
We have a few options. We're kind of waiting to figure out which way we want to take it. The guys that made Battery Jam, that I made Battery Jam with, we made Battery Jam together. We had made a board game before, and we're inches away from that reaching publishing, and they pulled out at the last moment. We've talked about potentially trying to go to Kickstarter, see if we can get something going there. We've looked at the VR space, which obviously everyone's very excited about, and everybody's got their gold rush for trying to find a foothold over in that area that we've kind of eyeballed a bit. We've discussed, if Battery Jam lands well enough, do we have an IP now that we can start shipping out to people? Because a lot of people who come and see the robots in the game also get curious about like the potential for toys and things like that. That's a pipe dream, obviously, but there's a few cards we're basically waiting to see how things go with the game for now before we can make a move towards decisively.
And I have to ask this question because I love these questions. What's your favorite game that you played before?
I stumbled on this question because I have a lot, but I think the Devil May Cry franchise, just sort of as a whole, is probably one of my favorites. The first Devil May Cry on PS2 was a moment for me where I realized how much I like games. Like there was a few key games before that, like Jet Set Radio, and things like that on the Dreamcast, where I was just like, this is amazing, this is so cool. But I got the demo for Devil May Cry, and I hit a dude into the air, started shooting him, and I was just like, oh my god, how do I do this for like a career? This is amazing. And I sat in front of the demo and I played it 16 times that day, and just, I love that franchise to death.
For me, I used to play a lot of Genesis and Sega Master System games when I was younger, and then there was a really long period in high school and college where I just wasn't playing many games at all. I just kind of died, and then when I started going to graduate school, I realized, wow, graduate school, you actually have a little more time on your hands for like a life. And so I bought a Nintendo GameCube and bought Resident Evil 4, and was immediately transfixed and spent hours and hours playing this game, and I'm playing through it again now that it's been remastered. Something about the pacing, something about, I can't say the dialogue's great, and I think the Resident Evil series is notorious for having bad dialogue, but I think they kind of embrace it rather than it's not so much a point of consternation anymore. But yeah, just love the game, love the pacing, love the creature designs, love everything you can do in the game, love the music. And so when I was thinking about making the Imposter Syndrome, one of the first flashes through my head was, can I make Resident Evil 4 in Beaufort? Can we do something like that? And if we wanted to do that, how would we pull that off? The vision for the game is not going to be quite like Resident Evil based on the art design that we're envisioning, but when I say we, I'm here with my girlfriend and project partner, Candace Brasser. She's the other one wearing a Bugs and Boo Hags t-shirt, by the way. She's a screenwriter by training and really understands good story structure, and has been instrumental in making sure that this game is, if it's going to be like an interactive movie, we want to make sure that the player will emphasize with the main character and become that much more immersed in the gameplay as a result. Resident Evil 4, short answer. TLDR.
It's always interesting to hear what games inspire everyone. I've had fun. I like some garbage games, but I love them.
Yeah, one of the ones I always tell people about is a game called Lost Socks. As you can guess, it's about lost socks, like socks on your feet. And so it's a really beautiful game. It's one of the ones that keeps me motivated to launch this platform for indie developers because it's like, imagine, anyone here familiar with Earthworm Jim? Okay, if Earthworm Jim was a sock, and he was running, and like an infinite runner, running through a stage, so you can't stop, you constantly move forward, and you're shooting the little minion things from Despicable Me, like that's the game, it's beautiful. I followed it before launch, I bought it day one when it came out on iOS for $5, and they couldn't find their audience, so they tried to compete by lowering their price down to 99 cents, and they launched on Steam, and now that's at 99 cents, and then unfortunately, just because of the timing, like 6 months after they launched, Super Mario Run came out, and then they couldn't get an audience, so it's really heartbreaking. I have the tweets saved somewhere, but basically it says, we want people to play our game even if we don't make any money, so they just made it free because they'd rather have people play the interactive art that they created, just because that's why they made it. So I love what independent interactive art makers do. I love Geekend, and I love bringing people together like this. We want to, actually, I would be remiss if I didn't point out, is anyone here from Indienomicon? No? I want to bring them up on the stage. Do you have any extra chairs? You can just get 2 chairs. Bring your chair, please. Yeah, just bring your chairs. I should have invited them up here earlier, but charge it to my head, not my heart. They are in Orlando. I want them to talk about what they're doing. We're really interested in making Savannah, South Carolina, Atlanta, North Carolina, the Southeast region a collective game maker community. It started a little bit here. I don't want to claim credit for it, but we started a game maker meetup last year. There was stuff happening before that, like SCAD, and we just want them to talk about what they're doing. We want to work together to make this region a place where games can be made as a community and succeed, so we don't have to go to Seattle or go to Santa Monica or go to California. So without further ado.
Yeah, so Mendrala here and I are from Orlando, and I'm actually a SCAD alumni. So I went down there, got my first job out of college, and we just started to. After my job at EA ended, we got together and we did a game jam, and then we had a lot of energy and we were trying to figure out what to do. So we made this community organization where we meet up once a month and we show off people's games, do game jams, do all sorts of events, and just kind of like trying to keep people together, collaborating, keep the energy going. And I think we do the same.
Yeah, I mean, echoing everything Tony said is that we definitely focus in on creating density. We try creating collisions between people that normally would not connect. Definitely creating community, help create serendipity. That's probably like what I try to focus on more is like, how do I manufacture serendipity? And we started this journey about 5 years ago in creating Indienomicon, this organization throughout Central Florida. We only knew of 6 studios back then. Like there wasn't even that many. Yet we had great educational resources that were producing gaming talent and art and all that kind of stuff. But where did they go? Right? And they were all hiding in nooks and crannies. But it actually took creating that community where people actually had the feeling of like, you know what? I have my friends here. I have like people I can turn to. And when that kind of stuff started happening, people stuck around, and then people found other people they needed help from. And then fast forward 5 years later, we know 45 plus studios and teams. We know people that have been hired. We know people that started studios. We know people that have been hired for contracts. We know millions of dollars have been made. Yeah, there's actual games that have come from the game jams. There's been several more game jams. We're working with other industries. We're working with space, and we're working with health, and we're working with, we're going to be working with sports and travel hospitality. We're going beyond just even video games. But it took a community to make it happen. within industries within the region, and when they all started, providing like their subject matter expertise, like we started growing, and we're still doing that. And part of what worked there is partly like why we're up here. We wanted to create more connections, more friendships, because when we do that, we can make a lot more stuff happen. So we came up here to Savannah because we knew, obviously, like Tony coming from there's a lot of talent that you guys have here. You guys have a lot of resources, and where I think you guys are at now is very much the way we were maybe just 2 years ago. So if there's any way that we can say that Orlando and Central Florida region can be a sister or brother to Savannah, like that's what we want.
Yeah. We love Orlando.
So we plan to come back up here a lot more often, and we want all of you to come back, come down to Orlando as well. And yeah, and the thing is, like, wherever there can be shared resources that it can grow this region, then we think that can also help us in Orlando too. So we hope that this, Geekend, the first time that we're coming up here, is the start of a really great relationship.
Alright, we're going to take a few minutes to get some questions, and everyone's waiting to win this stuff. So we'll get to the giveaway. What are their questions? Somebody can hand Alicia. Have an extra mic.
Hello. So I'm co-chair of this thing, and I'm likely to be next year. So can I interest you in coming next year? I want all affirmations up here. I will not let go of otherwise.
We just gave a speech about that.
All right, cool. Good to know.
We're definitely in for next year. We'll be here, but also I invite you to come down to Orlando as well.
I would love to. Can we go to Disney World?
Absolutely.
All right.
I would say rent a party bus, rent a party shuttle or something like that.
Party bus.
Sponsored by the Creative Coast.
Yeah, we're
Don't buy a bus.
Yeah, we have a couple of events that we host down in Orlando as well that we would love to see more of.
when is the next one?
Yeah, so the next big one is actually, so part of what I mentioned is having cross-industry events. We found a lot of, once we grew ourselves, then we started working with other industries. So we started working with space, and we created Indie Galactic Space Jam. So now we work with NASA and SpaceX and Blue Origin and all that, and now we're approaching year 4. The next big industry we're working with is health. So come April 12th through the 15th, we're going to have the Mega Health Jam. So game developers, emerging tech developers, all working with healthcare. So that's covering everything from VR, AR, tablet games, console games, behavioral health, PTSD, patient adherence to things. So the opportunity is there for all of us to work together on that. So we want everybody from Savannah to come on down for that. And then, we'll come up here for something, obviously with Geekend and anything else too.
Like a rolling mobile chromatic dragon. It's like a food truck, and
We'll make it happen.
okay.
I'm from Orlando, right? So, hey, I have a question. I don't even know mine either. What do you guys think about the future of local multiplayer versus, the juggernaut of MMO and online multiplayer? Is there a place for local multiplayer? Is it dying out? Is it gonna make a comeback?
Local multiplayer is making a comeback hard already.
Is it?
What's that?
I'm dead. The research we looked into shows that there is a niche there still. There's money to be made. Like we're probably not going to walk out of this loaded to the brim with cash necessarily, because we are cutting off a huge portion of that market by. I'm trying though. We are cutting off a huge portion of the market by not having online right now. And part of why we don't have that is because we don't have the resources or the manpower, and we haven't quite found the right people to make that happen for us yet. So we have some hurdles there, but luckily with the Switch and with the marketplace available, there are examples like Overcooked, Crawl, the Jackbox Party games, and things like that people are still purchasing. There are people who are still looking for experiences like that.
From my point of view, like I've been trying to set out to make like a really good single player experience, but I did get to thinking that Bugs Into a Hex, if you have a chance to play it, like it would work really well as either a two-player co-op or two-player competitive game, possibly multiplayer. So it's something we're thinking about embracing. I handed the mic to him because like he's more in the multiplayer space than I am, but I'm all about it, you know, because those games are it's fun to watch people play games like Battery Jam, and when we showed Bugs Into a Hex at PAX at the next booth over, there was a game called Gargamoth. Has anybody heard of Gargamoth? Which is sort of like if Smash Brothers was played with flying dragons or something to that effect. You know, people just went in there and just started playing this game, and they got a lot of foot traffic, and I'm like that, you know, a little bit envious. Like people are really enjoying playing that game. Not to say people weren't enjoying playing Bugs and Boo Hags, but it's just cool to see like the effect that multiplayer games can have on just building camaraderie and building a shared fun experience for a group of people. So maybe we need to kind of move in that direction.
Like say people in a gamer club, for example, they might
love the gamer club. Love Dragon. So
a mobile gamer club.
Yeah, from my perspective, I don't make games yet, but I love couch co-op games. If I have an option between online multiplayer and in-person multiplayer, it's going to be in person all the time, just because you can look at people and make faces and call them names face to face, or give them compliments or something. But it's the feeling that you get when you go to an arcade and you're playing like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Everyone's played that, right? Well, I mean, or some other multiplayer arcade game. You just can't beat that. There's something that playing online that does not give you the same experience that you have when you're in person.
So, I love couch co-op games. Guitar Hero and Bomberman got me through my senior year in SCAD. So I definitely think they're still going to stick around. I'm glad to see Battery Jam as a couch co-op game. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add, but just I think people are very social, and if you can have fun with friends or family, in the same living room, it's gonna stick. You're gonna remember not just the game itself, you're gonna remember your interactions with those people, and you're gonna feel good. And so I think when people get a taste of that, they then spread it. That's like how the Wii became so popular back then too, because Grandma and Grandpa got involved too. So yeah, I'm excited to see that spread more.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you everyone. Now we're going to do the raffle. So everyone, I hope everyone here has a Twitter account, because that's how we're going to do the raffle. Does anyone not have a Twitter account? A Twitter? Okay, all right. Well, I'm sorry. Okay, well, all right. We're gonna go on with the original plan. All right. Our sponsors each have a tweet that's pinned on their account. So if you have a Twitter account, we want to first have you go to @MostGames. Follow their account and retweet their pinned tweet. We'll give you about a minute to do that. And that's spelled ATMOSGAMES. Yeah, ATMOSGAMES. Now they've given us 15 keys. So we're going to do 15 drawings. Yeah, you want to follow them, follow their account. In order to enter, you have to be here, follow their Twitter account, and then retweet the pinned tweet. And So I'm just gonna call out names and Twitter handles, and if you're not here, guess what? You don't win. Right. If it's embarrassing, I'm just gonna spell some of the letters and then just raise your hand. Yep. So the goal here is to help you follow our sponsors and also help to increase their reach on the social medias on the line. You should be able to do that if you've got the Twitter app or if you use the mobile app, the mobile site on your phone. All right, I'll give you about 15 more seconds. 10, 9, I cut off 5 seconds. 8, 7, 4. All right.
It's already a winner. She doesn't need you to know.
Well done.
I owe you more than that.
All right, are we almost there yet? All right, now, if this winds up being really complex, we're just going to do a random room drawing. I think this should work, but it's 15 games, so we'll see. I hope I'm making the technology. All right, just say it's me or something if it's you. IFMU _gaming. All right. That's just sorry, IFMU. Did I get that wrong? No, still not anyone here. All right. Righteous Chicken. This is gonna be really funny listening to the names. All right. All right. Dep the Awesome. Alright, we may have to come up with another mechanism if this doesn't. Alright, let's try one more time. Alright, Pegster McDudes. So what? Yep. And if anyone's watching this online, you want a ticket option to purchase a ticket at Geekend next year. All right, I don't know if this is gonna work. Yep. See, okay, all right. I see someone who's here, so I'm not gonna say who it was because you weren't at the top of the list. All right, Brett Stebbins. 6C61. Come on, guys, come on, give me this. Derpy Shadow V2. This is kind of embarrassing. All right. How about Kittle Melinda? Lori! No? Oh, was it you? All right. Well, I see Kunal's name, so I know this is working. All right. This is gonna be challenging.
Did you guys retweet the right thing?
Yeah, no, I see Alicia's name. She's. All right. So you both just won a copy of the game. I see, yeah, so that's not fair, because now I'm just saying people's names. Mega Man NM13? Oh, come on.
Yeah, this is a really mean practical joke if everybody decides they're just not gonna...
They're all here.
All right. Who is Forrest _Kitten?
Lori!
Okay, you can't have multiple accounts, that's cheating, you're disqualified. Take the game back. All right, we're gonna use another mechanism, because this would take literally forever. Who has a suggestion? Anybody? First person that makes a valid suggestion, you win one of the games.
Hands off.
Yes! Dance off, real?
Yeah, people say number between 1 and 100. You said a number.
got? What do we got?
Dance off.
All right. We're gonna do a dance off. We're gonna do a dance off. All right. 1-1. All right. Okay. How about this? How many minutes?
How about a game trivia? How about a quick trivia quiz?
Cool. I like that. Who's gonna ask the questions?
Where's Thomas Rush from?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Who knows where Thomas Rush lives? Don't say it's a street address if you know the street address, because the city will be fine. We'll start with the state. The city. Yes. You win! Yay! All right, well, let's do that. 5.
Dante's twin brother's name. Devil May Cry, Dante's twin brother. You are all going to break my heart. Spike, jump on this if you have to. Virgil?
Yes!
There you go.
What's the name of the hat from Super Mario Odyssey? Happy.
Alright, my favorite game is Knights of the Old Republic. What is the main character's name in Knights of the Old Republic?
The character in Jet Set Radio that has the glasses and the headset. Their name. What's their name? I don't like way too obscure shit.
Here's one. What was the original IP they tried to get and they couldn't get it? They ended up making a game about a plumber called Super Mario Brothers. Anybody know the original characters they tried to get? Yes, over there. Popeye. That's correct. Popeye.
Go back to Earthworm Jim. What's Earthworm Jim's catchphrase?
In the Sega Genesis days, what was Toe Jam's buddy's name?
Earl.
Who can name another of the Elder Scrolls games that isn't Skyrim? Anybody?
Oblivion.
What? Morrowind. Can you name another one?
Oblivion. Arena.
Oblivion. Can you name another one?
Daggerfall.
Can you name another one?
Redguard.
Name one of the hosts from any You Don't Know Jack game. It's probably the name he might have chosen for you when you couldn't come up with a name. Nope. Okay.
So, in the original Metroid, what was the code that you put in to make Samus appear without her suit on?
I heard somebody said it.
That is
Correct.
In the mobile franchise The Room, what is the name of the elusive element that they're trying to get?
Key.
Wrong. No. The null element. Go home and play those games.
Okay, so this one, I don't know. This is gonna date me, and I don't know if people here are like. There's some of you I hope. Okay, so there used to be this TV show called the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. What was the real name of the guy who played Mario in that live-action show? Yes, it is Captain Blue Albano.
Alright, I got one more. Which character did you play to trick people into shooting over your head in the N64 game GoldenEye? Oh, I know this. Which character? Which character?
Odd Job.
Odd Job is there!
Alright, everyone, after the awards, go ahead and just and then make sure you reach out to Apple's Games, tweet them, and say, hey, thanks, and stuff like that. It's important to engage with them because they want to. All right. Yes, also tweet any non-foundation shirts.
Yeah, we have 4 shirts that we brought.
The creative process will send those to you.
I don't need a Steam key. He's already given me 2. Thomas already gave me too many Steam keys. But my question, I don't know if this is a trivia question, but I'd like to ask, what does ProjectMQ stand for? Does anybody know? What is the M and the Q? The first person to come up with a good thing for M and Q to stand for.
Malcolm and his twin Quinton.
There are like 3 people in this room that know the answer. I'm not voting. We're going to go with Main Quest.
Main Quest. And that enterprise.
Very soon before we have to apply for the trademarking time in the next 4 months or so. So follow us at ProjectMQ.com.
Yay!
All right, next. No, not next. Okay. Nope, that's for the Switch, that's last. All right, ProjectMQ has a pinned tweet. If you tweet the first 2 names, hopefully this will take less time than the last time, we'll win one of these 2 Steam links. A Steam link will allow you to broadcast your screen from your computer to your TV. It's, I guess, kind of like Chromecast, but for Steam games. All right, so we're going to give everyone about 30 seconds to follow at ProjectMQ. Just take those letters and put an @ sign in front of it on Twitter. And we'll see who wins. And then we'll do yours next. I'm going to try to finish the raffle before my phone dies. Yeah, just follow at ProjectMQ on Twitter and retweet the pinned tweet. All right, time for the drawing. Here we go. All right, who is amateur_cook?
Lori.
Nope, all right. Official NSK7.
How's this possible?
Nope, all right. Jackie Dugan 1.
Good old Jackie Dugan 1.
All right. Michelle_B. Zanny Geek? No. We're gonna pick, let's just do 2 more trivia. We'll just do the trivia. Trivia's easy. Thanks for retweeting the tweet. All right, well, we're gonna do 2 more trivia questions. And then we will also have you retweet and follow Indie Nomicon as well, but we'll do trivia again.
What is the Konami code? Raise your hand. I will call on the first hand that I see. Yes, you?
Up, down, left, right,
Say that one more time for me.
Up, down, left, right, left.
That is actually not correct.
Okay, look it up on your phones.
Somebody up here got their hands up.
Up, down, left, right, DA start.
That is correct. That is correct.
2-player mode over there.
It kind of is.
So in honor of Brandon's favorite game, what is the name of the princess in Earthworm Jim?
Hand over here.
All right, we'll get you the Steam links after this. Please follow Indie Nomicon on Twitter and retweet their pin tweet. We're not going to do the raffle thing on the phone, but I'm just going to give you all the benefit of the doubt that you're going to do that before trying to win one of their shirts.
What was the, in the very first Fallout game, which vault were you from in the very first Fallout game? Raise your hand if you know it.
That's somebody right there.
I don't know, you guys. You know the answer? I think 101 is probably the right answer.
Hold on.
I'm pretty sure it's 101. But I'll look it up. Just saying. Anybody else know it for sure?
Yes.
Person over there.
Say it. Say it. I think the guy. This guy knows it. 13.
Ah, yeah, 13. That's right.
Okay, what is Princess What's Her Name's mom's name? Jim again.
What's her face? That's a good guess, actually.
They are playing beads.
What was the name of the main boss in Earthworm Jim?
Somebody hasn't already done it. We all need to be on the Earthworm Jim Wikipedia right now. You win.
What is the name of the game that was victim of an unfortunate localization problem that resulted in the phrase, all our base are belong to us?
Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you know it.
I only can remember the first, there's two, the game has 2 words, and it's, the first word starts with Z. Yes? Are you looking it up?
Mega Drive.
Mega Drive? I think it was on a Mega Drive, but it's not the game itself.
Zero Wing.
Zero Wing is correct.
I'm going to be listing off some retweeters. Crab Suit.
That's me.
Hey! Winner! And how many more?
I think we only got one more.
One more?
Two people answered trivia questions, right?
Sure. Okay. Okay, and then Donna Sen.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
The moment we've all been waiting for. The Nintendo GameCube.
That's pretty good. I'll take it.
The Nintendo Switch. I got one at home, I didn't bring it, but we'll raffle that as a teaser prize. And I'll keep the Switch. Oh, never mind.
About this.
Yeah, sorry. Follow games on Twitter. They will pin tweet, and we need you to follow them and retweet that pin tweet, and we'll give you 30 seconds.
Follow what?
Avant Games, AVANTGAMES, and retweet the pin tweet there. Give it a low minutes. And we've also got some t-shirts we want to get out. And I have we have some trivia of our own. What's that? All right. I have a new fascination with the game, PUBG. So does anybody know the only armor that gives you 100% protection from damage? No. The pan is it.
Woo!
Who can give me the tune of the music that starts at the second level of Mario Brothers? There you go. Let's see. Complete the title for a very popular game. Mega.
Man.
Everybody gets it.
Let's see. Guitar. Alright, so here's the concept. Raise your hand. Anybody else just want a shirt? You want a shirt? Alright. There you go. Correct answer.
See, I told you, Corey.
All right, well, it's time to pick the winner of the Switch.
How about, let's do this. Give me a number. Pick a number between 1 and let's say, actually pick a number between 1 and 60.
42.
All right.
I'm 42.
So 42 on here is Ryan Geekend.
That's me. How many people were going to say that's me?
Everyone for coming out. I think Blake has final remarks to make. I want to just give one more shout out again to Indianomicon, Avant Games, and Atmos Games. I want to thank you all for coming. Thanks for applying to the arcade, and we'll see you next year.
Thanks everybody for coming out to Geekend. We're all either going to Ryan's house, play Switch, or we're going to wander over to the courtyard and have some good food and drink and socialization. Or at 8 o'clock tonight at Bull Street Labs, there is a comedy show called Freaks and Geeks, and there's going to very likely be sketches involving Dungeons and Dragons and video games and all kinds of fun stuff. And if you show your Geekend badge, you will get a few bucks off on admission. So thank you guys for coming, and have a great year. We'll see you next year.